Hey, what's up guys? It's Art Book Addiction here, and we're here with a new Artist Journey video. So today, we're going to be talking about art and nudity, okay? So, nudity plays a huge part in art, okay? That's just the way it is, right? You know, the human form is something that we seek to capture, okay? And, you know, those outside of art may look at it and see it as a very, like, perverse thing, as kind of like a dirty thing, but we artists know that it comes from a much more refined place. It comes from a place of like trying to learn, and you know, like and there are, you know, like there's a lot of the, you know, the hentai, a lot of that shit, right? But in general, nudity is there as a tool and used to help create what we want to make, okay? Because we need to know the form, we need to know what the human body is composed of, right? Often it is an educational thing, right? But there's a lot of things to discuss in between that, so that's what we talk about today. But before we start the video, please hit that like, hit that subscribe, check out my Prince of Patreon. If you want to support the channel, consider becoming a channel member. And with that, let's get into it. So, nudity, okay? Like I said, it is something that in art you're gonna see a lot of, right? They are best friends, okay? They come and go, and like of course, like, you know, there's obviously art that has no nudity in it, right? But in general, there is an association between the two, right? Because, you know, some artists may do that, some artists may not, right? But at the end of the day, there is a lot of nudity in artwork, right? When you are training as an artist, you're gonna see a lot of live nude models, right? And you're gonna draw for them, right? In my experience, whenever I'm drawing from a nude model, okay, like you like the fact that they're nude only registers for like the first like 5 seconds, okay? It's like 5 seconds, and then you're in like, okay, I'm like in drawing mode, okay? There is very little like sexuality in it, right? Like even when it's something that is kind of like, you know, in that mode, right? Your mind doesn't really go there unless, you know what I mean? Unless it's like a, you know, one of those kinds of drawings, you know what I mean? A not safe for work drawing, right? But even then, there's something kind of like analytical about it. It's not necessarily just perfectly just like nasty, you know what I mean? You're thinking of it more in a technical perspective while you're drawing it, right? You know, depending on what it is, like I said, it could be more sexual, it could be less sexual, right? When I'm doing like pieces like this, right, my intention is not to show sexuality, and instead show more of like the divine feminine, right? Femininity, like a type of like softness, you know what I mean, right? And a naturalness, right? And you know, like I said, other artists, they could go the complete opposite way, where it's like hypersexual, right? Or it's like, you know, like it's just straight up porn, right? And that's okay too, right? Because that's part of art, right? Nudity and art have this relationship between each other, because like I think that from when we're young, right, we do have this, you know, fascination when it comes to art, right? Like maybe like, you know, you're a kid and you're watching some like 90s anime, and like, you know, you get your first kind of like whoa, like titties, dude, you know, right? And or like, or pantsu or whatever, right? And then that gets into your brain, right? And then you're like, now I want to draw, okay? Now I want to capture that. I want to see if I could do that myself, right? And like, I'm not gonna say that like that's wrong or anything, because that is part of it. You know what I mean? You look at DeviantArt, you know exactly what's happening, right? It's definitely a part of it, right? But at the end of the day, it doesn't have to be that, like just that, okay? That's just too much of a simplification, right? I believe that art and nudity come together because I believe that art is trying to display a type of truth, okay? There is a truth in good artwork, okay? Right? And part of that truth is showing stuff that people may not want to see, okay? Or stuff that people want to see. You know what I'm saying, right? But at the end of the day, nudity shows the truth within us. Okay, it shows our bodies. It shows like what we like, who we are, what we are, right? You know what I mean? More of what we are. You know what I mean? But nudity is part of that. Okay, it's like exposing yourself. It's like, and showing art is like trying to show a part of yourself that like is a little bit exposing, right? You know, maybe a dark part of your mind, or you know, in, like I said, like a sexual part of the mind, right? Or an angry part of the mind, right? It's communicating something that is within you that you're trying to show, okay, and you're trying to let out, right? Now, sometimes it may not be like, you know, like I said, you may not associate the thing with the person, right? Like for me, I'm not like a super like sexual person. I'm not like someone who's like, you know what I mean? I'm not like all about that and like going, like, oh yeah, dude, you know what I mean? You know, videos aside, right? That again, that's part of the creation part, right? But like, you know, like in my real life, I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, what am I gonna do? Like, oh yeah, dude, let me see them titties. Like, no, I'm not like that, right? I'm very respectful, but you know, there is a part of me that says like, hey, dude, I enjoy these things, right? I want to create these things. This is from the muse. This comes from outside of you, right? Often your subject matter isn't really chosen by you, right? It's something that comes from like deep within and from the divine, okay? So if you're drawing like things that you never expected to draw, that's just part of the natural process, right? And a lot of that has to do with nudity, okay, right? With not safe for work, okay, right? It comes from a deeper part of you, and it's something that just kind of comes out, bursting out, right? And you can't really, you like you could restrain yourself, right? But it doesn't really feel like you're free to make what you want to make, right? And then there's that conflict within your brain, right? So what I'm trying to posit is that it's okay, okay? It's okay to have nudity in artwork, right? It's something that maybe people outside will not understand, okay? But like I said, it is a part of it, okay? Those who are interested in art, those who understand art, okay, they know that this is part of it, okay? They know that this, like, no matter what, like you just look at primitive man, dude, and you see like, you know, like the Venus of Wildernor or whatever, right? And you know, the nude body is part of that culture, of that world, okay? And it's not, I would say that in the US it's a lot more frowned upon. It's a lot more like ooh, you know, because we have kind of like, you know, Puritan values kind of ingrained in the US's culture, right? You know, we could watch someone get like fucking hacked to pieces, right? But we can't see someone who's a little bit like, you know what I mean, right? Though we watch things like Game of Thrones where there is nudity, right? And you know, like adult content with a lot of nudity. So it's like, it's this weird contradictory thing that happens in the US, right? If you look at like in like Europe, right? Nudity, sexuality is a lot more accepted, right? It's a lot more like, you know, out there. If you look in like Asian countries, it's a lot more accepted, you know what I mean? You know, you look at Japan, you know what I mean? Like, what else am I gonna say? I mean, what am I gonna say? Like, you know, they're all about it. For some people, maybe too much, right? But that's a cultural thing. You know what I mean? That's a cultural thing. People have different levels of acceptance of nudity and of sexual themes, right? But how does that play into what we do as artists, right? Well, we as artists, we rebel against that, okay? There are lines, and we say fuck those lines, okay? We make what we want, okay? It's whatever the muse would like for us to make, okay? Ideally, right? Artists are rebellious people, okay? And we accept the truth, okay, that maybe other people will not accept, right? Which is like, hey, I like the nudity, dude. Hey, I like a little bit of titty in my drawing, okay? Right? It adds something. It really does. It really adds some kind of like a visceral feel to your work, right? If you look throughout history, okay, there is a lot of nude figure, okay? There's a lot of nudity. You see like in statues, you see it in paintings, right? There is something that is closely tied together with art and nudity, like they are, like I said, they're best friends, right? And like I said, it's because it shows us something about ourselves. Okay, it shows us, like, because like normally we're all like, we're clothed up, right? Right. It shows an essential truth that at the end of the day, strip us away of what, like from everything, and we are exposed, we are nude. Okay, right. And I'm not someone who likes to go around nude. Some people, they like to walk around nude, and like that's all about them, right? But personally for me, I'm not all about that. You know what I mean? And I don't want other people going around like that either, right? But in art, it's acceptable. Okay, in art, it serves a higher purpose, right? Like I said, it's there to show an essential truth that at the end of the day, our bodies are our bodies, dude. Okay, um, and it's not wrong to know that our bodies exist, to see our bodies, right? And like, of course, like, seeing a nude versus like, seeing like someone like fucking finger themselves and all that shit, right, are two completely different things, right? The nude body is just the body, right? But we associate one with the other, right? Because like, that's just the way it's because like, oh, you get a little like, you know what I mean, you get a but again, a lot of that comes from the values that society holds, right? And less about us as people and as humans, right? As humans, we completely understand what's going on. As animals, we completely understand what's going on, right? And in the old world, nudity was less frowned upon, right? Like someone got like a little bit of titty out, right? That's just normal, okay? Right? That's just natural, right? But we've made it so that it feels unnatural. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't say that that's wrong. I wouldn't say that that's right. But like, I would say that because of that, we hide things now. We're less truthful. We don't, we're like, we're more modest, right? But then as a result, things are like kind of like hidden, right? And then balled up, right? And then a lot of us, for the artists, those things that are like held in, right, they find a way out through the work. Okay, and so we found a more acceptable way to view nudity, right, in the way that like maybe it could be presented as something more thoughtful, something more philosophical, right, something more tranquil and serene. Okay, right, and that's good. Okay, because now we have an outlet. Okay, there is a place for that kind of stuff. You know what I mean, right? But at the end of the day, it's a truth that we can't hide from. We can't hide from our own bodies. We can't hide from the fact that nudity exists, dude. That at the end of the day, we take our clothes off, we take a shower. You know what I mean? Like, that's just real. You know what I mean? You look at yourself in the mirror, right? Or you see somebody else, and it's like, that's just the way it is. You watch a movie and you're like, ooh. You know what I mean? It's a reality, okay? But the society we live in likes to deny that reality. Likes us to, think that everyone is always, fucking clothed and like, you know what I mean? Right? That our bodies are wrong. You know what I mean? That to be attracted to a nude body is wrong. You know what I mean? Right? Or to look at someone nude is incorrect, right? But like I said, these things are not true, okay? And listen, dude, I went to art school, probably saw like, 100 more or like 100 times, people naked, right? It's not that crazy, okay? And I've seen like beautiful people, and I've seen people who are, they're like me, they're bigger, right? Or someone who's kind of uglier, right? But at the end of the day, what's great about art is that it kind of unifies everything, right? Art is a simplification, right? And often a drawing is way more beautiful than what you're actually seeing, right? With the eyes, you see a lot of flaws, right? And someone who would normally, as a just me, my sight, I'm a regular person, they were like, I'm like ooh, you know what I mean, right? They're not the best looking, right? If you translate it into an art piece, right, they become beautiful, okay? Because art beautifies things, it simplifies things, it shows us the essence of the thing, right? So like for example, right, there's this old guy who would pose for us. I think his name was like Bob or something, right? But he was like, fat guy, kind of had like he looked like Santa Claus in a lot of ways, right? And he would be a nude model, dude, right? And like in real life, you'd be like, oh, that's unappealing, right? That's not something that's like, like why would you draw that, right? But some of my best drawings, okay, in my figure drawing classes were of Bob, dude, okay? And like, like I said, it breaks down what we're seeing into like a more essential thing, something more simplified. Like it's like, oh, that's not ugly. That's the human body, dude. That's one of the shapes it takes form in, right? And of course, I did draw, beautiful people. I drew like ripped guys, dude, and I drew beautiful women, right? And like their beauty is enhanced by the art, okay? But at the end of the day, every single person that I drew was more beautiful as a drawing because, like I said, it's broken down into its essence. It's not showing every detail. It's not showing, the ball hair of every, you know what I mean? Right? And you could do that. You could go that way. You can make an ugly drawing, but yet an ugly drawing has a beauty to it. Does it not? You know what I mean? Have you seen like Junji Ito? You're like, ugh. It's kind of beautiful, right? It's kind of beautiful in a way, right? It's effective, you know what I mean? And nudity is a tool for you to make something more effective, okay? Nudity brings in fertility. It brings in themes of like softness, you know what I mean? Like being exposed, being truthful, okay? Showing something that's more serene, okay? Or showing something that is more sexual, right? And like that is again a tool for you to use. What your piece asked you, okay, can be used. The nudity can be used to enhance that, right? When I was making one of my first nude pieces, like around like last year, right? I found that when people looked at it, okay, it invoked something. It like created a reaction, and everybody's like, whoa, or like, hey, look at that, dude, and it's not just like, it wasn't just like purely like sexual, okay, because I had people who were like, like these old, like, Karen type people, you know what I mean, who you would never expect to enjoy that kind of work. They see it and they're like, there's a visceral like feeling in them. They're like, whoa, like that's beautiful, you know what I mean, right? Like, whoa, it's presented in a certain way that is beautiful. So like in a way, these things are more accepted than you would think, okay? And like, again, with the filter of art, okay, because like if you see someone naked in the street, you know what I mean, it's like, oh, like what are you doing, you know what I mean, right? But if you look at it as a painting, right, you're like, whoa, hey, that's beautiful, okay? It's not crass anymore. It's not like vulgar, you know what I mean, right? It's not, or, I mean, it could be depending on what you're painting, right, or what you're drawing, right? But often is the case where nudity presented in art is seen as a beautiful thing, right? And there are, like I said, there are themes that could be associated, right? And like, when it comes to males, right, like naked males, right, there is the masculinity, right? There is the, you see the strength of the muscles, right? You see it like all bare, right, born in front of you, and you're like you see like let's say you see a statue of like a really strong dude, or like maybe like a guy who's like kind of skinnier, right, or has like the boyish charm, you know what I mean, right? Like, see like David and Goliath, right? You see Goliath, huge, hulking, big, strong, okay, and again, like I said, in the nude, right? And he's like, you know what I mean, right? And you see how those muscles are like big, dense, and like, you know what I mean? There's a feeling to that, right? And then you see David, okay, who is like smaller more compact, right? Still kind of still muscular, but less so, right? But he's standing in a certain way, and he has this energy about him, right? This cockiness about him, right? And again, they're both nude because it's showing them in their truest sense. Okay, it's showing them in their completely exposed form. Okay, and when you see the human body, right, it comes in so many different shapes and sizes, and like some people they're lumpy, some people they're pristine, right, and some people, like, you know what I mean. But like, the thing is, a lot of the times you'll find that someone who has a perfect body and is perfectly pristine, when you draw them, it's kind of boring, isn't it? Right? It's kind of like, oh, well, we've seen this a million times. We've always, like, everyone aspires to draw the perfect body, right? But then you see someone who draws someone who's got like flaws here and there, right? Like maybe their like nipple is too big, or maybe like, like, so, like, you're kind of, they're drooping a little bit, right? Or they got a little bit of pudge or something, right? You see that and you're like, there's a beauty to that. You know what I mean? It's reframing something that we would see as negative, and then showing it to us again. They're like, whoa, that's actually kind of beautiful, right? You know what I mean? Like, you see someone who's like a thicker woman, right? And then you see like kind of like a little bit of that belly, a little bit of that fat, a little bit of that fupa. You get what I'm saying, right? And you're like, whoa, there's like a natural kind of beauty to that, right? And again, it's revealing. Okay, it's revealing something that maybe we didn't think before, right? And we live in a world right now where, like, everyone kind of strives for physical beauty, okay, for a beauty that is outside of themselves, right? That, like, like, you got the models, and like, you know what I mean, right? Everybody wants to be like that. Everyone wants to follow those people, right? But in real life, it's not like that, is it? We don't go around and see tens walking around everywhere, do we? Right? Most people are like kind of like, they're all like, they're a little bit busted, they got a little bit of something going on, right? And like, in real life, we may see that, and like, maybe our brains are programmed this way now because of, various factors like social media and stuff like that, where we see them, we're like, oh, you're like, you're not the ideal, you're not the beautiful thing that we wanted to see, right? But then you see them as drawings, right? And you see them broken down to their essential forms, and you realize that they are much more beautiful than we ever thought, dude, right? That there is beauty in the flaw, right? That there is, like, like a drawing of something that you're like you would find normally like grotesque is now beautiful, right? And why is that? Why does that happen, right? And we're like, because it kind of circumvents that part of the brain, the part of the brain that's like trying to assess, like, oh, is that person like healthy? Is that person like the ideal, like, whatever, you know what I mean? Ideal form, ideal partner, or whatever, right? And we circumvent all that part of our brain, and then we see it for what it really is, because the drawing, like, again, like I said, it simplifies, it breaks down, okay? It makes something that doesn't exist, okay? Right? And we see it and we're like, whoa, why is that beautiful, Why is this big Santa Claus bearded guy, I see him as a drawing, like, why is that beautiful? Why is he so much more than he was before? You know what I mean? Right? And it's because, like I said, dude, the drawing shows us something deeper, right? Makes us look past all of our programming, okay? It shows us that the human body, in whatever form, is beautiful, okay? Right? That's why you got them inflation guys. You get what I'm saying? Those people who are like, I'm all about inflation, you know what I mean? Right? And like, to each their own, you know what I mean? Right? But it doesn't always have to be sexual, okay? It's not just sexual, okay? And like, a lot of people, they're gonna look at it that way, okay? And that's, that's whatever. That's just the game, okay? Right? But you, as an artist, have to see it for what it is, okay? And that's showing something truthful. being honest, okay, and being honest about what you're seeing, okay, right? There's the temptation to edit, right? But most of the time, it's better just to show exactly what it is, okay? And you know what? Like, again, you look at art, dude, you see many body types, okay? You look at Ruben, okay? Rubenesque, okay? That's all I gotta say, okay? And yet, it's still beautiful, okay? So, next time you draw a nude figure, or you draw, like, something that's a little bit kind of, like, you know, out there, look at the body. See it for what it is, okay? Break it down to its essence, right? You know, you don't have to draw perfect bodies every time, okay? Draw someone a little bit more flawed, okay? And see that they hold beauty within them, right? And that the human body itself, in whatever form it comes in, has beauty in it, okay? Right? So get out there, draw some nude figures, right? You know, whether sexual, whether not, okay? Play with that scale, okay? Play with, like, the more sexual, the less sexual, right? You know, allow yourself to have the freedom to explore the body in a drawing, okay? Right? And, you know, like, maybe you'll learn something. Maybe you'll see something different, okay? And maybe you'll see the beauty in the flaw, okay? I think we can end the video here, guys. Please, if you enjoyed that video, hit that like, hit the subscribe, check out my Prince and Patreon if you want to support the channel. Consider becoming a channel member, ring that bell for notification, all that bullshit. And I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks a lot.